Hi guys, it's me, I'm back. This is going to be part 2 of last week's video. So if you've been following me on social media, you know I've been doing the alphabet book challenge where we go for each letter of the alphabet and post one book that we've enjoyed. So last week I did A through L. This week is going to be M through Z minus V and W minus V and X, because I don't really have any books that start with those letters. Technically Z, I'm cheating on Z, but we'll come to that. So first we're going to go to M. Agatha Christie. I love Agatha Christie. In fact, the book I'm currently writing at the moment is a murder mystery in that sort of Agatha Christie style, or as close to it as I can emulate, as just like I homage to Agatha Christie because I just love the books. This one is Murder on the Orient Express. I could have gone with Murder in the Vicarage. I could have gone with a few of Agatha Christie's ones. I went for Murder on the Express in the end because it's a Poirot and I prefer the Poirots over the Miss Marples, but they're both great series. So that's my M. For N, anybody who knows me even vaguely, this is no surprise, Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle. This has formed the basis of so much of my academic work, Nicomachean Ethics. And it offers a quite different approach to ethics. Instead of looking at right or wrong, it looks at intentions and habits. So it's very interesting. And also argues that ethics is a sort of communal thing, it's not an individual thing. So Aristotle quite argues that like if we do bad, it's not because of a personal failing, it's because of the community hasn't done enough to help us understand why that's wrong. So ethics becomes a communal thing. That's N. O is quite a big one. The Oxford Telemachus by Spike Green. It's quite a short book, and it's mostly just some impressive artwork like that. So quite some impressive artwork, all done by Spike. And really it's just a fantasy sort of retelling of the different areas of Oxford. Like each one has like a little troll that looks after it, and you all have their own personalities and they sort of interact. Let's see if I can just find one quickly. It's like, yeah, the old town here, the old part of Oxford, has the Cataclysm Quib as its guardian. It gives you like a page talking about him. And if we go to there we are, Magdalen Bridge area, sort of on the River Cherwell. You've got Duke Cornelius, whose name has been crossed out by one of the other trolls and replaced with Duke Arseface. So it's just an amusing little read. It's not meant to be taken too seriously. For P, we have The Prophecy of Kinnaird by Cassandra Bellingham. And this isn't actually a release version. This is a proof copy, not a release. So it does have a couple of typos in it actually. But this is, I actually like this book quite a lot. It's quite personal to me. It was given to me as a gift when I started university. And it's quite short. It's actually a novella rather than a full novel. It's only 180 pages long. So it's very easy to read. And it's actually been nearly 20 years since I last read it, so I should probably reread it again because I've forgotten what actually happens in it. I remember liking it, and it does mean a lot to me because it was a gift. Q, I'm kind of pushing it here with the books we've enjoyed, but it's the only book I have that begins with Q. Quidditch Through the Ages by J.K. Rowling. This was one of the short mini books, like only 55 pages. As an accompany to the Harry Potter series, it was released alongside Fantastic Beasts, and I think maybe one or two other like mini books like this, which were released as part of the charity thing. There's not much to say about it really. It's just pretending it is the Quidditch for the Ages book from the Harry Potter series, actually released physically. There's not much more to say about that one. That's Q. R is Rethinking Psychology by Professor Rob Hare and others who've contributed. This one is actually my signed copy by Professor Hare there. I quite like this book. Quite interested in psychology in general, but this particularly has some interesting papers in it. Like in it, Rom argues that psychology needs to stop pretending it's a science and start accepting its philosophical roots more and lean into those if it's to advance anywhere in the modern age, because the rigidity of its scientific approach is not getting any sort of meaningful progress. So he argues that. It's also an interesting one in that argues that gender is actually sort of infinite rather than being a binary, and so having sort of labels on gender is not very helpful because gender is far too infinite, far too complex to be boxed up and labelled. So, and there's some other papers in there as well, and it's very interesting and definitely worth a read. Sticking with non-fiction for S, we've got some more psychology, Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson. This is actually, I had this idea all the way back in middle school when nobody believed me, but my personality can be divided into 4 types. In middle school, I did fire, earth, air and water, and this kind of takes that same context but uses red, blue, green and yellow. And so you get this system where everybody has a dominant colour, which builds their personality, and then a secondary colour. So, let's see. Here we are. So it gives you, at our back, you've got a handy little thing that sort of shows you all of them. So reds are quite dominant, quite assertive. Yellows are very social, very talkative. Blues are very logical and very sort of rule orientated, and greens are stability focused, so don't like to rock the boat, and so very shy, very sort of quiet, but very loyal. And there are like positives and negatives to having each colour, and then of course most people would then have one colour as their dominant and then another that sort of backs it up. So I tend to be more blue with green as my secondary in most approaches, is what I've come to understand. This is actually part of a series of 3 books. Surrounded by Idiots is just general background to the different colours and how they interact with each other, so you can learn how, if I'm as a blue person, how I can best communicate with someone who is yellow, who is like my polar opposite. So or who I can respond to someone who is more red, which is sort of green's polar opposite. So it's a sort of general background. There is surrounded by... Oh, I've forgotten what they were. Surrounded by Psychopaths, which is about relationships, sort of friendships and romantic relationships. And there is Surrounded by Idiot Bosses, which is you applying this in a workplace scenario. And moving on to T, still with psychology, we've got Tigger on the Couch. This one, it looks at different fictional characters across a few different series and explores how their attitudes and behaviours sort of are symptomatic of sort of personality disorders or neuroses. So like you've got the Winnie the Pooh characters, and also obviously you've got Eeyore, who is a depressive, but then it's got Tigger, who it says his attitude and behaviours are typical of ADHD. Winnie the Pooh is typical as having ADHD as well, but whereas Tigger is more hyperactivity, or Winnie the Pooh seems to be more attention deficit. And then Piglet has dysphoric dysphoria. And you got like the Peter Pan characters. So Peter Pan has narcissism. Wendy has, well, I say shows symptoms of codependency. So it just goes through those. You've got Alice in Wonderland, you've got Peter Pan, you've got the Winnie the Pooh characters, the Wizard of Oz, and then you've just got like some general characters. So Willy Wonka, Peter Rabbit, Beauty and the Beast, like both Beauty and the Beast, Cruella de Vil. So that was quite interesting seeing how certain personality disorders manifest, and it gives you an interesting new look at the stories these characters come from as well. So now for you. Yes, you. Uckridge by P.G. Roadhouse. Like Agatha Christie, I really enjoy the P.G. Roadhouse books. They're set in that same 1920s, 1930s England, but Roadhouse is very light, very humorous reading. Like I just finished reading Full Moon, and there's some great lines in it, like to say that Lord Clarence was dense would have been an understatement. The lowest jellyfish, 30 IQ points below the most average jellyfish, would not have been anywhere near as dense a cheese as Clarence. So it just has these wonderful way with words, and very light and humorous. And Uckridge is about main character, Uckridge, and his many schemes to try and get rich quick, which fail. Like one of them is he becomes a dog walker for rich widows. That doesn't work. One is he tries to become like a boxing manager, fixing matches to try and make money quick, and that fails. There's one where he tries to get married to eligible young lady who comes from money, and that fails. And then all of these like different schemes all end up come to bite him in the ass at the end of the story. So V, moving on, going to go straight to W. We've got The Wind Singer, which is part of the Wind on Fire series by William Nicholson. It's been some time since I've read these, but it does have quite some interesting themes. Like it has, the world it's set in has this rigid caste system, and yeah, so there's like, it has a rigid caste system, so it has a lot of commentary on that. And then they escape, and these children try to escape and find paradise outside of this city that has a rigid caste system, and end up having the usual trials and tribulations that happen in fantasy novels, and end up repairing this ancient wind singer, which ends up saving the world. But it's quite a fun read, and actually inspired a lot of my fantasy writing. There's some elements of it which I've sort of used to shape how I craft world building. So X, we're moving on, and we're going to go to Y. For me, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! This is the Duelist Kingdoms arc, which is my favourite story arc of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. Mostly because there's more creativity in the Duelist Kingdom arc. The later story arcs become less about being clever and solving the problems, and more just about what bullshit card can I pull out to save the day here. So Duelist Kingdom is much more, I am in this predicament, how can I cleverly use what resources I have to get around this situation. And it also has most of Yugi's character growth, I find, so it's the best series out of all of them. That being said, I have watched all of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime and all of the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime. It's not like I hate everything that's not Duelist Kingdom, it's just I think Duelist Kingdom is the best one. And then finally Z, or Z, which I'm cheating on because it doesn't begin with Z, but it has a Z in it, and that's Thus Spake Zarathustra by Nietzsche. I know a lot of people don't like Nietzsche, but like Aristotle, Nietzsche has been one of those ones that's been quite influential on a lot of my academic work. I like the existentialism of Nietzsche, whilst not particularly the flavour of existentialism that Nietzsche offers. I do like the sort of ethos behind the existentialism. I personally lean more towards Kierkegaard than Nietzsche, but that's a different question. But why I like Was Speaks Zarathustra particularly is it's written as this sort of wonderful poem stroke novel rather than a philosophical treatise, where Zarathustra, which is a parody of Zoroaster, the Zoroastrian prophet, has come back and is trying to re-educate the world through his sermons. So it's, even if you're not philosophically inclined, it's quite an interesting read because it's written in this lovely sort of poetic form that Nietzsche was quite known for. So that is the second half of my Alphabet Challenge books. So I shall see you all next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.